I am always fascinated by Vegas. Our friend Chris said, I think probably one of the smartest things I've ever heard about the place, which is that there's only like 3 or 4 cities in America that are utterly sui generis. And Las Vegas being one of them, sort of because it's trying to be so many other places.
It's not wrong.
It's so intense because of all of the sights, all the lights and all of the noise, and every building being sealed in windowless areas going for 24 hours a day.
I always think of Vegas as one of those rare places where anytime you turn a corner, you can find a person on a motorized scooter, smoking a cigarette, drinking a Long Island iced tea, and gambling at the same time. And therefore, a special place.
Yeah, no, I lost count of those individuals. And also like seeing like 4-year-old kids running around the casino floor at 3 a.m. because their parents are at the slots or at the blackjack table. Everything is just strange. What happened in your life that got you here? And I'm sure there were probably people who looked upon our party and was like, what the fuck happened to you guys?
I actually think that's a really good new motto for Vegas. What happened in your life that brought you here?
Yeah, right. Question mark.
It's better than what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's whatever the fuck happened outside of Vegas that brought you here.
Although,
welcome. Hello and welcome to Expected Own Goals. It can't really happen again to Louisville, can it? Can it? Can 9th place really happen again? Oh no, edition. I am your host, Eric Morgan.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am Evan Davis, and it can happen. They really needed to beat Gotham and then did what they did, which is what they've been doing all season. And now we're going to start our whip around with North Carolina's slaughter of Bay, which also helps North Carolina's playoff odds a great deal. North Carolina's playoff odds have swung 12 points in the positive direction. They were at 6% after last weekend. They are now at 18%. So they are still very much at the bottom of the hill, and Louisville's like 3/4 of the way up. But
and in turn, North Carolina has absorbed exclusively Louisville's margin.
Yes.
In this. Louisville, the only team who have yet to secure a playoff spot, which also means they're the only team susceptible to also finishing 9th again for the umpteenth time.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, 81% playoff odds for Louisville right now, and that has entirely to do with the fact that they've got the easier opponent on decision day, and all they got to do is win the game, and even if they draw, even if they lose the game, there is still the possibility for them to go through. There's so many potential scenarios that get them there, and there's basically 1-2 scenarios that gets North Carolina there, and it's not all in North Carolina's hands.
Obviously, Louisville win, they're in.
Yeah.
If Louisville draw, they need North Carolina not to win.
Yeah.
North Carolina did something in this game that we're about to highlight that makes life harder for Louisville, which is they dropped 4 goals and covered the goal differential problem right here.
Right.
Frankly, they probably could have dropped more than 4 goals in this game. North Carolina 4, Bay 1. Monica Matsukubo has a hat trick. She probably could have had 4 if she converts her penalty. Bay capitulate.
Yeah, which that part isn't especially shocking.
No, that's been the thing.
Rachel Kundananji on the bench, not because of yellow card suspension this time and not because of fitness, we don't think. She would just miss the first half.
And then she missed a really beautiful chance that clicked off the inside of the post.
Yeah. I mean, she had a couple of chances that could have potentially gotten Bay climbing, at least within spitting distance of a result. But this is the way of Bay's season, and I'm sure everybody is just holding their breath to let this campaign finally be done.
Yeah. Bay very much playing like a team that was totally ready for the season to be over.
Yeah, and if there's anything that North Carolina might have to worry about is that, if we're looking at like the quality chance split, the shots that have an XG of 0.15 or higher, the good chances, the great chances, it was a 4-3 split by the end of the game. Obviously a lot of that's game statey because they were 2-0 up by the 8th minute, 9th minute. So Bay, if they wanted to win the game, really had to pour it on. But North Carolina at times looked a little bit defensively frail.
A little bit, yeah. No, I would say that they were quite open. And granted, they needed to play the game open, because of what they had to chase in making up the goal differential. But their openness, they got away with some stuff.
Yeah, big time. And so, they deserve the result, but it bears repeating that they have Gotham on decision day. And after this kind of a performance, and with Gotham's injury issues, I mean, shit could still break their way, but I still feel a lot better about Louisville's 81% odds than I do about North Carolina overcoming 18%.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really going in Louisville's favor is they play the listless Bay FC.
That's right.
At home on the final day of the season. So bizarrely, Bay and Gotham are the opponents that will determine this
the
end
final
round.
spot.
Yeah. So Louisville supporters, it could be worse. You could have to play a team that cares.
Indeed.
All right,
and you get to be at home. So, and I'm sure the crowd is going to be pretty lit.
Yeah.
This is the first time where Louisville genuinely had a shot at making the playoffs on the final day of the season. And if they don't make the playoffs, they will finish in 9th place.
I think we will pour one out for that if that happens.
Oh, yeah. Boy, will the bourbon sting. But they also will kind of deserve it. I mean, a 2-2 draw to Gotham.
Yeah.
Yes, it's on the road.
Yeah.
Gotham, yes, is probably the better team, but you had them on the ropes. Gotham's injuries problems meant that they were rolling out not an optimized lineup, and you coughed it up once again in the back end of the second half.
Yeah, we're not the big narrative-y guys, but there's a lot of fun narrative in this particular Gotham-Louisville game because you have Jalen Howell,
right,
ex-Louisville, starting off with her 4th goal of the season. All of them sort of these bangers, most of them at least.
And she'd had, one in the NWSL before this season?
Yeah, but again, it's another one of those, like, good technique. It's a little far out, but it's good technique, top of the box.
Yeah,
she rips one. And then you really have Louisville do what they've been doing effectively, which is attack down Emirsir's flank and create. And that creates Janine Sonas's goal, one that I'm sure Shelby Hogan would love to have back. Not as bad as Jordan Silkowitz conceding on her first goal, but one that Shelby Hogan would want back.
Yeah.
And then Gotham missed a series of chances.
And then, middle of the second half, there's like a 3-4 minute window where Louisville just rips them up, and one shot hits net and the other doesn't. And then they don't take another shot for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure they folded too early because of the chance that they end up conceding.
No.
As far as Louisville's concerned, they've been a team that we've often thought, packed it in too soon, invited too much pressure on. They did a really good job of sort of mitigating the amount that Gotham could attack. They just fell prey to a wicked left-footed free kick from Rose Lavelle.
And for all of the game state influenced points dropped from racing this season, this is actually one area where maybe they probably can feel a little bit hard done by because it was just insane finishing luck from Lavelle in the end. And also the narrative element that you could easily lean into with the way that Louisville is, quote unquote, not mentally tough enough. It's not mental pressure. It's the fact that Bev Yanez loves to keep the fullbacks high and create a lot of space between the center backs and the midfield. And it's a calculated risk. And oftentimes it pays off because when they are generally in a talent deficit space, you need to overload areas of the field in order to just get a numerical advantage, and then that will lead to better opportunities. But then counterattacks are inevitable. And so if you don't have that balance, then it's a real danger. And so very often, when we talk about Louisville packing it in too early, sometimes what that means is that they don't have their solid organizational principles in place when they do that because they think they still are hungry. And then they get hit. So it's not even an issue about are they mentally tough enough? It's that Yanez has an approach that can sometimes feel necessary for them to succeed. and then they just don't know how to see a result out.
Yeah, I wouldn't call the Lavelle free kick necessarily finishing luck because it's a bad chance to give up.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a finish.
It's a hell of a finish, and it's also like, I mean, it's .08 XG. It's not a great chance in the end.
But as far as free kicks go, it's one of the more dangerous places you can give up a free kick. And Jordan Bloomer had a great game for long stretches, keeping out shots that were very much on target. Just doesn't have a chance at this one.
Right. And so, I mean, again, .08 XG would indicate that it's quite a poor chance, even though it's a free kick quite close to goal. It's just that, like, if you have someone who catches it sweet, you are close enough to frame where you might catch everybody with their pants down.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I think the one good piece of news again for Louisville out of this is, look, a point on the road at Gotham is in isolation a good result, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And also by forcing Gotham into a point at home, Gotham now needs to jockey for playoff position on the final day of the season. And they have to do that against your primary nemesis, North Carolina.
It is wild how much we have seen swings in projected playoff position and in table position in that third place to seventh place gap. That,
I mean, we knew it was a clusterfuck, and it's just proved to be exactly the clusterfuck we thought it was.
Gotham's now in seventh place somehow.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Gotham was in third place, 2 blinks of an eye ago.
Right. And yeah, the projections now have them not with a great shout to even make the top 4. I mean, they are 15% to get a quarterfinal at home, according to the Trevor Larner ELO model.
There is a really silly world wherein Louisville win next weekend, Gotham lose next weekend, and Gotham are your 8 seed going to Kansas City.
Crazy.
And that's the worst of both worlds, both for Gotham and for Kansas City.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 biggest games relative to stakes. Otherwise,
well, let's move on and talk the Kansas City game if we can.
You want to jump over there?
Yeah, let's talk the Kansas City game because we did a whole episode last week about the vulnerabilities of Kansas City and how we didn't see a lot of them. And I'd love for you to punch a hole in that narrative or not based on this game against Houston.
I don't think this game tells you anything about like how good or bad Kansas City is.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you here.
The Ryan Garris goal is not a great chance.
I mean, I think that if you want to say situationally a bunch of things broke right, you got Kansas City out of their defensive block, you played a cross in, the cross ended up sweetly on a person's foot and they struck it home. Like, in terms of the types of chances Houston create, that was a good chance and it came from some good play. But yeah, it's not like a high XG chance.
It's not a high XG chance, and also it's not something that like you can point to Houston's attacking strategy and say like this is a byproduct of how good they are.
Yeah, you can.
A lot of fortune had to fall into their laps in order to open that up. The thing that they did do well was just slow Kansas City's attack down.
Yes, and I think that's where the counter also comes from.
But also, it also depends on like how you measure the quality of their attack in the game. I mean, they generated an above average amount of XG in terms of chance quality volume. It made 3 quality chances in the game, which is above average for a team, and it's just that like when you look at like the sum total of all the values of their chances, they were kept pretty quiet because they generated they generated 0.07 XG per shot.
Yeah, and we have the Temwa Chewinga of it all. She goes off. It apparently Vlatko almost immediately just tamped down on whatever rumor might get out of there. She's apparently fine.
It's interesting to try and suss out what it all means. It's Temwa Chewinga who actually informed us what actually happened. Like Ananovsky in the post game was like, it's not her knee, which is like what she was listed as potentially having as a questionable state of availability going into the game. It was something else. He wouldn't specify what it was. And she said on Instagram this afternoon that it was an adductor issue, but she didn't get any, she didn't make any further details than that. Like, was it a tear? Was it a strain? What was it? So it's not super clear. But then I think also you can maybe give Ananovsky some credit that maybe it was fairly minor, and he was just like, first sign of trouble, she's out.
Yeah.
Abundance of caution. But then I think a lot of people would counter with, this game means absolute dick to you. Why was she starting in the first place? He did say that she was 100% going into the game. And maybe you're just like, she needs the reps.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that it is just getting reps in advance of the postseason.
Yeah.
I think for me, the one thing that is actually really concerning about this performance as far as Kansas City, and it's not a big concern, is if you don't have Chewinga on later in the game, Kansas City did not create a quality chance after going down. Like in a meaningful way, Kansas City, all of their best chances come at a level game state.
It's not exactly true. I mean, Bia Zanerato in stoppage time in the second half like has a really good chance of leveling the scoreline.
Sure, but they didn't create a ton over those. They got one chance. And otherwise the amount of XG they created from there on out was, once they went down a goal, was like 0.45.
Yeah, it was a quiet game. I mean, I think Aronofsky would probably also counter with like,
again, it doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter. And B, it's like, this was a game of experimentation. You know, we rolled out our death lineup, you know, for the first 28 minutes before Chewinga went off. Like everybody who was on the field was the preferred starter at their respective positions, and that hasn't happened for Kansas City
for a while.
Well, really all season, basically 2 games where they had that death lineup in the starting 11. So the idea was, and he said this, is like, I want us to play as though we are a goal down. Now, ironically, they ended up having to do that, literally.
And then they didn't play that well.
But what it also would suggest is that, like, he would say, and I'm again not agreeing or disagreeing with it, I'm sure he would say that like the entire game was about practicing what we want to do in various phases of the match, like when it's an even scoreline, when it's the first half versus the second half, when we want to act as though we're down a goal, and like how to deal with that kind of pressure and how we change our tactics in those contexts. I'm sure that's like sort of what he wanted to use this game for. And it's especially interesting to do because when you're on the road, like you're not playing in front of the home fans who expect a show, you know? So it's sort of a toss up. Like they've also had like these kinds of blunted attacking performances before in the season. So I'm sure Dash fans will be like, we stuffed it down their throats. We stopped them from doing anything good. And Garris's chance wasn't luck. You know, it was just because of our hard fought mentality. And we were trying to keep our playoff hopes alive. And I'm sure current fans, at least the ones who, you know, aren't melting into a puddle with fear and terror, are like, this game doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think a big part of this is at the time that it was played, this was a game that kept Houston's season alive.
Yeah.
And they played with a measure of urgency that looked like that. They didn't create a ton. They did create enough for that goal. And they caught some luck. But Kansas City didn't have that urgency. And they didn't really display it once they went down a goal. But again, who cares?
Yeah.
It's match week 25 and you won the Shield a lifetime ago.
Right. And again, like if luck breaks their way and Debinha scores in the 23rd minute, which is a great chance, like this is a completely different scenario.
But if you're talking about like what it might look like for Kansas City to lose in the playoffs, it's probably a game that looks a bit like this, where they, you know, they put up a decent amount of XG. They don't take necessarily the best shots. They go down, you know, against the run of play, and they really struggle to generate anything from there out.
Yeah.
Like that. This is, you know, it's funny at the end of the broadcast, I think it was Jill Lloyden who said, you know, like maybe this is the handbook that's been provided for everyone to see how to beat Kansas City. And I think the answer to that is, yeah, it's just a really shitty handbook. Yeah. Like it's true.
It's the only handbook, potentially.
Yeah. But on its day, it can be and might well be effective.
Yeah. And the other thing to note is that Debinha apparently picked up some kind of a knock, and that she got her first Brazil call up in I can't even remember how long, and now won't be going to camp because of an apparent knock. Maybe
for the best.
Maybe for the best. Also, maybe she didn't get a knock and, you know, just decided that she needed a break, to prepare for the playoffs.
Sure.
Don't know. It's unclear. It honestly could go either way. Regardless, I mean, Ananovsky really probably should make sure that everybody who means something for the playoffs is not playing on decision day. And then if that's the case, then you just can rest all of your key starters for 3 weeks, at least out of gameplay. And then you just have everybody fresh and fit and firing for the quarterfinals.
It's hard because you would like to be going in at your peak to the playoffs, but if you can't be at your peak, you might as well be quite healthy.
Yeah, and again, like, is rest important? Is rust more detrimental? Like, nobody actually has real evidence one way or the other.
Yeah, Kansas City's championship odds still are basically a coin flip against the rest of the field, or slightly better than a coin flip against the rest of the field.
Which is, by the way, inhuman. No team
totally
has that level.
Absurd.
Yeah.
But my point is, if they don't win, let's not use the rest versus rust argument to defend that. Let's just say that, teams with 50% odds lose the playoffs half the time.
And I want to note that I ran the championship odds in 2 different scenarios. One where Chewinga and Debinha are not available to be starters in the playoffs, and another where they are. And it's a 10-point swing in championship odds, 57% with them, 47% without them. But I really also want to stress that, like, in second place is Washington, who are 18% and 17% in both potential scenarios,
and potentially don't have Trinity Rodman.
Exactly. So it's
who went off in a CONCACAF Champions League game on crutches.
Yeah, it turns out it's not as severe as feared. It's a grade 1 MCL sprain, which means she theoretically could be available for the playoffs. So Washington fans also don't have to panic. But I just want to outline that, like, yeah, without Chewinga and Debinha, the swing in championship odds is huge, but basically they are still miles ahead of everybody else. So they are still very much the overwhelming favorites to win the trophy. Doesn't mean they will. Yeah. And again, for anybody who wants to be snotty and say, like, oh, you got it wrong with Houston and Kansas City, is like, we never said that they couldn't lose against a team like Houston. We just said it was very unlikely.
I think the point of it was it's very unlikely to see Kansas City lose in a game where they also get beat as by the quality of play.
Yeah. But this is also why we never say anything is 100%.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's move on and talk before we get to our featured game of the week, which will address Washington, but to a larger extent will address Orlando.
We'll talk about a couple more teams, 3 more teams, in fact, that all clinched their place in the dance in November.
Let's start with Seattle and just get it out of the way.
Sure.
Seattle, Utah.
Another game where actually they were outplayed.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a penalty, which got them the lead, and they did not relinquish it.
Yeah.
But against Utah in their house, who generated 3 quality chances across the match.
Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you take the penalty out of the equation, basically they were neck and neck on XG per shot. Like, and on chance quality volume, Utah had the edge there too. Like, just a classic bit of Seattle bullshit.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Bellingham Mariners hat today in solidarity for my family that lives in Bellingham and are big Mariners fans. I want it to be known that the city of Seattle, I have no beef with you. It seems like we're talking a lot of Seattle shit over the whole season, really. It has been deserved. This performance was no different.
Yeah.
And yet, all of you who are Reign fans, you enjoy the last laugh on this one because Seattle stands a very decent chance now of hosting a home game.
Yeah, the Lerner Elo model right now, top 4 odds, Orlando at 86%, which we'll get to at the end of the episode, and then Portland 55%, Seattle 30%. So Portland has the edge, and that is due almost entirely to the fact that they are a better team. But when it's 30%...
A better team at home against Houston.
When it's 30% versus 55%, don't feel like super comfortable that Portland can pull out 4th place. You know,
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Seattle have the problem of traveling to Orlando, the team we're going to break down, which is kind of a hell of a trip on your last weekend.
I believe it's the longest
it is the longest by mileage.
Yeah, of any road trip you can have in this league.
Yeah. All right. So let's, any thoughts on Utah?
Not especially. I mean, I'm glad that they're,
I've really just enjoyed Paige Monahan's talismanic.
She's having a nice little run of form at the moment.
Yes.
And that's great. I would love to see Utah be able to do this over 26 games.
Cosign.
TBD.
All right, so let's talk Angel City, Portland before we get to the drubbing of the weekend.
Another absolutely terrible game that Angel City is involved in, where not a single quality chance was taken, and Portland still somehow managed a comfortable 2-0 victory on the road.
We've seen the emergence of Olivia Moultrie. Olivia Moultrie had another one of those banner days for herself, running up against an Angel City team that, found out moments before kickoff that they had been eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then played like a team that found out moments before kickoff they'd been eliminated from the playoffs. It was a very emotional day, I think, for Angel City in general.
Allie Riley, Kristen Press, their final home games in Angel City black, because they have both announced their retirements in recent weeks, and they both gave post-game speeches. So, yeah, I mean, June Endo could barely stop crying.
It was really hard to watch June Endo.
So it was just a litany of finality between the two retirements, and then the fact that they were dead in the water before they're able to kick off at center circle. So.
Yeah, Portland, on their end, they didn't look particularly impressive against this Angel City team. But again, Moultrie is evolving into the kind of player that really does break games open in a unique and special way. She did that this time. And then what I felt was a pretty bullshit penalty that Portland won is converted by Moultrie. And the game is absolutely dead after that.
Yeah, not a single shot taken after that penalty. And the chance, her first goal, was a pretty bad chance. It's just that, she had the rub of the grain when it comes to finishing luck.
She hit it in stride. Let's go to the drubbing of the weekend.
I mean, I didn't know that San Diego had 6 goals in them anymore. But then again, they were playing Chicago.
San Diego will go down as having one of the funniest distributions of goals in a season I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They put up like 3.5 XG. When you put up 3.5 XG, 6 goals isn't crazy.
Yeah.
That it's not even that. You're already attacking so much that the overperformance isn't insane.
Yeah, and
frankly, San Diego could have had more goals.
And I was going to say, like, 4 of their 6 goals are from quality chances.
Yeah, no, I thought San Diego played really, really well.
Yeah.
And this is, if the second half of the season has been the long, slow regression to the mean, this put them back into their little outlier status. This was an extra 2.5 goals over the XG.
But then,
but also they did it by massacring Chicago.
If you look at Chicago's passing network, it's insane. It's insane how badly uncoordinated tactically they were from the jump.
Yeah.
And
they had no plan that worked.
Yeah, because they're not actually an effective sit deep and counter team. And so this is the kind of game where a really highly technical, really possession happy, build out happy squad like San Diego's can run absolutely roughshod over you.
The less we say about Chicago, probably the better on this one.
Yeah.
I do want to say that I had felt earlier in the year that Dudinha would potentially be a big hit in this league.
She had a hell of a game.
But also I think we saw what is so effective about her, and it's all the physical tools.
Yeah. She's
good at creating space for herself, but she's more than physically adept enough already at a young age to boss defenders. And that's really what she did. And so I think for San Diego's attacking playoff odds, she's like a wonderful counterweight. She's like the Thunder to Delphine Cascarino's Lightning.
Yeah, and it's allowed for the absence of Adriana Leon from the starting lineup to not be as much of a problem, even though Leon can be mercurial both as a player and maybe as a human being. So, I'm not necessarily shocked that she's been seeing more time on the bench lately, but it was at least a veteran presence up front that could potentially like grab you a poacher's goal. Dudinha is softening that blow.
Yeah, she's creating a lot more balance for the attack, and for the first time, I really feel like we saw
how it could all work.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna transition now and talk about our match of the week, which is Washington and Orlando. Probably the most entertaining game of the weekend, and a game that I would hesitate to draw too much from, at least on a Washington side.
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously, without Rodman there, it's a different mix of attacking talent once again. Also, Kwasi not in the 11. So with Gift Monday and Sofia Cantore being sort of the primary pieces, having more width from Troy Bethune rather than having her being pulled underneath is sort of a different look. You don't always see Heather Stainbrook pushed that high up in the midfield. And Esme Morgan and Tara McKeown were benched too. So it felt like Adrian Gonzalez doing sort of the opposite approach to Vlatko Ananovsky. I mean, like, this game doesn't mean shit to us. Let's just rest some people. Let's figure out like how we are going to now balance another potential Rodman absence.
Yeah, the Cantore goal's great. The goals that they concede both to level and to then go down are soft and fluky.
Yeah.
First, you have
it's an own goal.
You have an own goal on a wicked deflection.
So many penalties and own goals across the weekend.
Are you concerned at all for Washington?
I don't. If I'm concerned, I can't really judge it based on this match.
Yeah, that's right.
Because again, Orlando had stakes and there were none for the Spirit, and they just shuffled the deck. So like it's sort of like Kansas City against Angel City a couple of weeks ago. So what there is to determine is an open question. It is interesting that like Gonzalez has not seemed to want to play Monday and Kwasi together from first whistle a lot. I don't know what that's about, but he did it again this time. And very recently, we had a Kwasi Monday Rodman front line with Bethune underneath, and it looked awesome.
Yeah.
Again,
Trinity Rodman coming back and being healthy is going to be massive for these playoff push.
Yeah.
But this game, they lose the XG battle-ish. And ish. And
like you take the pen out, it's basically even on XG per shot. Like it's 3-2 quality chance split.
I'm not freaking out.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right, let's talk about sort of the main thrust of this. Let's talk about the Orlando side of this equation.
Yeah. Do we want to start specifically with what they were doing in this game, and then we'll
I think that's right.
That's the right approach. It's a pretty crazy passing network where like Oyane is basically all the way up, constantly overlapping and interchanging with Jackie Ovalle, whereas you have like Carson Pickett and Carriabello pretty far deep, both of them. So you have these very lopsided, diagonal like spread of your wide players, with Ali Watt there to try and be your central node. She didn't have the greatest game, I didn't think.
She is being tasked with quite a lot. And I think, winning that penalty is admirable. So was she effective all the way through the game? No. Was she effective in the kind of spurts? Sometimes a forward only needs to be effective for a handful of sequences of play.
Yeah. And also, like, Haley McCutcheon ended up being the midfielder that would often be getting forward and being used sort of like in a triangle out wide, which is just like, wasn't Ali Lemos supposed to be this Marta replacement in the absence of Grace Chanda?
I mean,
like,
who knows?
McCutcheon is just not historically like an attacking force. That's never been her game.
I mean, she has scored some important goals for Orlando over the years, but she is not that player. I agree.
Yeah, and as a single pivot, which Angelina could be, especially when Lemos like had more progressive instincts, I don't know if that is going to function when your opposition actually gives a shit about hurting you.
Yeah, let's transition now from sort of, well, before we do that, I want to shout out Carrie Abello for just, you concede an own goal and then you right your wrongs within 2 minutes.
I was going to say immediately.
Yeah, and also again, like
if you believe in the mental toughness narrative, then Orlando, we've always known, quote unquote, has it in spades, or so they like to tell us.
Yeah, I think that Seb Hines is right now in the throes of probably the hardest stretch of coaching he's had to do with a completed team, like with a team that is good.
Yeah.
Like how to solve the problem of being without Barbra Banda. He's experimenting and trying to figure some of it out. In this particular instance with the Abello thing, what I was so taken with is the technique she displayed at the top of the box is like a training manual for what to do when you get a half volley, which is don't hit it too hard. The ball will carry on its own. Just place it.
Yeah,
and she did it brilliantly.
She has attacking history, as we know. Like she came to like being a professional left back somewhere later in her professional career, but that also is the training manual way to handle a half volleyed shot. It's hard to repeat it.
Yeah, but also like don't overhit the thing.
Which is often why it's difficult to repeat.
Yeah.
Because even the best of attackers
want
to make sure they have enough oomph behind the shot.
And she makes the conscious choice, I think, quite smartly to not put everything into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's talk Orlando in the broad.
It's going to have a very Banda-centric lens through which we're going to look at a lot of stuff because there are things,
because that's the right way to look at Orlando.
But also like it's like hilariously clear both when she joined the team last year and when she departed the team injured this year, how much their attacking fortunes change. So in 2024, like the rolling non-penalty XG differential throughout the season immediately explodes on April 19th, which is the first game that she ever plays.
Her debut.
And she generates 1 XG on 3 shots in a half.
Yeah, no,
it's one of the most amazing debut performances you will ever see. Go back and watch it.
Yeah, it does not take a lot to find Barbra Banda performances that are just astounding. I think we need to look no further than the first game of the playoffs last year against Chicago, where she put up more XG than any individual had. It was like 2.8 XG on 7 shots.
It's insane.
And
then from that moment on in 2024, they never really have a moment where the XG that they generate in a game dips below average, and they basically only have 1 match, I think, maybe 2, where the XG they allow is more than average. Like they were a lot more, like if you compare how they generated and conceded chances last year to like what Kansas City has done this year, their consistency is not quite what Kansas City has been. However, they consistently stay on the right side of the line, both in their attacking and their defensive performances.
Absolutely true.
So much different this year.
Yeah.
And that's before Banda leaves.
Yeah, let's talk about the decline that was already occurring before Banda went out and then what's happened post Banda.
Yeah, I mean, there was always going to be some measure of regression. We've said that many times this year. Like, it's unavoidable. Like, they were one of the 2 best teams, or one of the 3 best teams, or one of the 4 best teams, however you want to calculate it, in the league in 2024. But you will always take a step back from one year to the next, because to be that, even if you're great, still requires some measure of overperformance.
True.
And that happened where before Banda gets injured, like they'll have the occasional game where they can't generate an above average amount of chance quality volume.
Yeah, it's happened. I think there are a lot of reasons behind why it's happened. They are not Banda reasons this year, but generally speaking, Orlando's attack is just less coherent, less together. If you want to put some of that on Marta's regression, if you want to put some of that on the loss of Adriana, that's valid. But they've just not sort of had
injuries too.
And
I mean, like,
they've been very hurt.
Summer Yates, Ali Watt, Julie Doyle, Grace Chanda, obviously, Priska Chalufya, I think, as well. Like, everybody who was expected to contribute has missed some time.
Yeah, and again, Orlando last year had like a 90th percentile season, and this year had like a 50th percentile season
Based on the talent
the
available.
talent on hand, maybe a 40th percentile season.
Yeah, and they were fortunate in that, like, defensively and in like the tactical approach that Hines was carrying over from previous seasons, like, sort of held up. Like, whatever ups and downs they had in attack, like, they were not giving up a lot of high XG defensive games. In that early part of the season.
Samson and Danner have still put together great seasons.
Yeah, and
so is Carriabello. Like they have a lot of defensive depth.
Yeah, and even when like Abello got hurt or Kylie Nadanner's been on an excused absence for a few weeks, like Rafaele finally got healthy and then got injured again, but then got healthy again, and she's back, as well as Oyan Hernandez stepping up after coming over in transfer. But the starkness in not only what Banda's injury did to their attack, but also
what it did defensively.
And maybe you don't put that at Banda's feet. I mean, again, this is also the period where Nadanner steps away, even though they had theoretically good replacements to like cover for her. It's been an absolute fucking nightmare.
There's no question about that. It's been bad. But what I would say about this is the problem. First off, Barbra Banda, very good defensive striker. It doesn't always appear to be doing that work. The numbers suggest otherwise.
Yeah,
I think that there are some really unhelpful things said about the way in which her work rate manifests itself that are pretty clearly not true to me. That said, when you take her out of the game, you cease to be able to stretch the field. You just lose a field position game pretty constantly. And that applies, in turn, a lot more pressure on your defense.
And it has forced the team to sort of reimagine like what their pressing strategy is. I mean, they had such a defined pressing tactic that didn't look like every team's pressing last year. Namely because, as Haley Carter put it to us, it's Orlando, it's hot, it's humid, it sucks to play there. Like, why would we waste energy trying to counterpress high up the field? Let's be an incredibly disciplined 4-4-2 mid-block, and we will define what triggers we want to jump you on. Once you cross that line, and we know that we have the attackers to still make quick transitions, even though there's more field to cover than, say, like, what Gotham likes to do and really get into your defensive third and take the ball off of you. They are, even before Banda got injured, they were already starting to try and do that further up the field. But it starts with Banda, and like knowing how Banda's athleticism and her physicality and her tactical intelligence allows you to sort of like sniff out triggers that might not actually be there anymore now that she's not there, and it's Ali Watt leading the line or whomever you decide to like put in the middle. And that's another problem. Like, Ali Watt isn't a number 9, and she, among other players, are asked to try and fill central attacking spaces where they might not be naturally comfortable. So it has all of these cascading effects when you have the ball and when you don't have the ball, for a player of such extraordinary talent like Banda to escape. And what is interesting to me is that when they speak to the media, including to us, so much of what both the players and Hines and his staff and Carter like to say is that, like, it's next player up. It's about
everyone is replaceable.
It's a system. We have depth. We all know how we want to play, and therefore, it doesn't matter who we have in any position. We can still make it work. And I think what is clear is that, again, even before Banda got hurt, that hasn't been completely true. And then after Banda got hurt, it has been aggressively true. I just want to quickly just lay out just a couple of bar graphs that we can roll through here. Like, the percentage of games where they come out the losers on like the quality chance split, on the overall XG split, on the XG per shot split, all of those percentages are up by considerable amounts from last year.
Yeah, they are a worse team. I think, again, I think it has to do with the fact where they are giving the ball up, where they are losing possession is more in the midfield this year than it was last year. And when they needed that outlet pass, they had one of the strongest, fastest strikers in the world who would go chase, and who could then hold up possession. And when you concede possession 80 yards from your goal, or 70 yards from your goal, or 60 yards from your goal, you're just so much more likely to be able to reorganize yourself defensively sooner. And when you start giving the ball away in the midfield, or you don't have that outlet pass, and you need to make shorter passes that are probably lower risk in terms of completion, but also in a busier stretch of the field, you will just give the ball over in a worse position and then have less time to reset defensively.
Ironically, this has been a pretty excellent passing season for Marta. Like, where she's losing value is her off-ball movement when they're in possession to try and receive the ball.
That makes all the sense, because she's just, again, and this is the problem of like what the options are for the Haley McCutcheons of the world when they have the ball. You don't have Banda as an outlet, which means you have less space, so they can create problems for your Martas. And Marta, who is not that mobile anymore, is not doing a lot to be more mobile. Yeah,
you see the amount of G+ that they are conceding in each zone of the defensive third, left, middle, right channels. They were either the best or like top 3, top 4 last year, and just how much offensive value they would give up across the field in the defensive third. This year, they're not bad, really, not objectively bad in any of those areas, but the amount of ways that opponents can get at them in their own kitchen is so much higher. Yeah,
and I think the point, I think what's so illustrative of that is it does not take a ton. You don't have to lose a lot to regress like this.
And also, despite Carter and Heinz's protests that their depth and their tactical plan and their like sense of unit cohesion can prevent regression when you lose a player, I think it is pretty clear when you compare both like how Banda has been able to generate really good chances this year compared to last year, and also compare the change between her and Temwa Chawinga from last year to this year, is that Banda does not have the same level of attacking support that Chawinga does. And so therefore, even though Banda was like cruising on an individual level, it was mostly because of like dribbling value and not necessarily like a high volume of like quality chances that she was getting. Like the rate of games where she had at least one quality chance, it's like nearly 80% last year. This year, before she got injured, it was 60%. It's a big drop. But you know what's funny?
And she was being keyed on because they knew that there weren't other options. The opponents knew there weren't other options.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is that her like peak of 2024 is where Chawinga regressed to this year. You know, that Chawinga was like stratospheric, like 92% of games she had at least one quality chance in 2024. So she regressed basically to the same level that Banda did. Again, not shocking when you think about like what you got to do to have outlier years. But she was starting from such a higher place because she got to play with Michelle Cooper and Debinha. And with all respect to Ali Watt and Julie Doyle, and also to 39-year-old Marta, it's not the same thing.
No, it's not. We thought it would be hard for Orlando to repeat.
Yeah.
I think all things considered, the addition of Jackie Ovalle, that's starting to look, if we want to sort of bring it full circle, in the Washington game, you're starting to see like the benefits of where Jackie Ovalle can, you've been seeing it, but like where she can really help. Orlando right now is in decent position. I would even say good position to host a home playoff game, to grab that third seed, and to avoid the Kansas City path.
Oh, it's not just, dare I say it, a great position. They are in an outstanding position. I mean, the Larner Elo model pegs them at 86% to make the top 4.
They have Seattle on the last day of the season at home.
Yeah.
They can secure another home game right after that. They'll have a chance to play Washington, who they just beat 3-2.
What is also kind of extraordinary is that they are 5th in XG differential this year, non-penalty XG differential, for all the hemming and hawing that we just laid out because of the extreme parity of the league.
Yeah.
Beyond Kansas City and like the bottom 2 or 3 teams. They are still very much a group that can go toe-to-toe with Gotham, with San Diego, with Portland, and could theoretically reach a final if they can avoid Kansas City in the semi. And hell, I mean, as we've
and
talked
they stand
about,
a great chance of avoiding Kansas City in the semi.
Yeah, exactly. So such is the nature of your opposition that, like, even when you take legitimate steps back, you are in the hunt, you know?
Yeah, no question. Let's do some quick hits on the way out. Louisville, are they the 8th seed? Or is it North Carolina? Or is it someone else?
No, I mean, Louisville feels right to be the 8th seed. I mean, they're just it's a very narrow band of options for them to be any higher than that. And equally, there's an extremely narrow band of options for North Carolina to be able to pip them to the post.
Yeah, the scenario that I see that is hilarious to me is Gotham ending up in 8th because North Carolina goes like a bunch of banshees, beats them. They don't make the playoffs, North Carolina, but Gotham ends up on 36 points. Louisville gets a win, ends up on 37 points, and they end up in 8th. I kind of like this as a possibility.
You have to ask the Gotham's defense to play like Bay's defense, and I'm just not ready to put my money down on that.
I don't have to ask that. I just have to ask Gotham's defense to not be able to handle Monica Matsukubo.
Yeah, but they also would, because of the way that they defend, means they can probably key in on Monica a lot easier and not have to worry about subsequent threats. Bay's defense couldn't do that.
All right, Evan, take us out.
Thanks so much for listening to the main feed or watching main feed. I hope you guys are starting to watch main feed. We put a lot of work into xOG under construction, and the studio's in a pretty nice place. So fire up the video feed if you so desire. And then sign up for our Patreon. $6 a month gets you a ton of bonus features, including both the video and the audio versions ad-free. $6 a month.
It matters. Ad-free's better.
It certainly is. And do other things you're supposed to do with podcasts. Rate us 5 stars, drop us a kind review, and follow us on social media. Tell all your friends about us at xOwnGoals. That's the letter xOwnGoals on socials. YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok has the full first season of Anatomy of, where you can watch incredible videos with Casey Murphy, Sam Staub, Ashley Sanchez, Croy Bethune, and Sam Coffey. And if you think we've made an own goal, please email us at expectedowngoals@gmail.com. That's the letter expectedowngoals@gmail.com.
We have our end of season best own goals, best worst own goals of the season episode definitely coming soon.
That will be happening most likely after the playoffs. We will be back probably on Wednesday or Thursday next week for main feed, thanks to the international break.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. If something changes the schedule, we'll adjust to that, but I think that's probably right.
Yeah, and if you are on Patreon, we will talk to you on Thursday for that.
Bye.